All right. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of the Worst Ones podcast. My name is Rudy Wilson, and I am a preacher's kid, pastor's kid to even be more specific. And I am joined by three others. We have the brother from obviously a completely different mother, Mr. Terry Wayne. What's popping?
How you doing?
Nothing's
popping.
Nothing's popping. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know what side, but well, both are from Atlanta, but
I said both of them from Atlanta, Georgia, right?
But I guess the one who already threw her hands up in the air like she just don't care, Miss Princess Kellie Lee. What's good?
Hey.
Are you relaxed? Everything?
I'm a little anxious, but I'll be okay.
Okay. At least you stopped saying it. So I appreciate that. I feel like you're a little bit more comfortable. And then last but certainly not least, we got my sister, we got the homie, my god sister, you know what I'm saying? The people who, if anything happened to my parents, they left their family responsible for me. Janessa, Rowland. Good to see you. What's going on?
Nothing much. I'm nervous, but I'm here.
No need to be nervous. No need to be nervous. We are all preachers' kids, pastors' kids of different calibers, and not calibers in reference to like how they preach in the pulpit, but just levels of pressure, I would say. Because for one, I will start off by saying, my dad, for one, my parents have been in church since I was in the womb. You know what I'm saying? I never experienced their club days or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And granted, they had me, I guess, fairly later in life. I mean, they both were late 20s, early 30s. You know what I'm saying? So they weren't like old, but they didn't have me in college. You know what I'm saying? So I never really seen them do whatever. So, but at the same time, my dad became a pastor 2005. So however long it is, what is it, like 15 years or something? So that's how long I've actually dealt with him in reference to being a pastor. But I mean, he's always had like a storefront sized church. It's been at different levels, at one time, it was in like a hotel, like little small hotel room, and then now it's at the biggest location that he's had it or whatever. But it's just always been at just different levels, but never nothing surpassing, I would think, a membership of maybe 200 or so people. Like as far as like the members. So we're not even talking about just the people showing up every Sunday. I think the most I've ever seen show up consistently every Sunday would be probably maybe like 70 to 75. You know what I'm saying? As far as like showing up like every Sunday thing. So for me, I say that to say, I think my pressure is a little bit different than you guys, which is why I wanted to have you guys on because, you know what I'm saying? Y'all daddies had some stuff that was popping. You know what I'm saying? And and I think, the bigger the platform, the bigger the pressure. You feel what I'm saying? Granted, I am a person who walks to the beat of my own drum, and I wouldn't have cared if anybody said anything. But at the same time, I'm still on a different caliber. So starting with Miss Kellie Lee, I just want you to just, quickly, let's just hear your synopsis of just, the size of your dad's church and your family's church, I should say, because y'all got the family values going on in the and just that what pressure you feel comes with that level of a platform.
Sure. So my father is currently a senior pastor of a church. He's been senior pastor for about 10 years. Growing up, my father was a youth pastor as long as I could remember.
The best youth pastor on top.
I think so too. But yes, he was a youth pastor up until maybe I went to college, and he moved into the associate pastor role. And then my uncle's church, which is the main church, is 3 churches, 1 church, 3 locations. And so then my uncle started a second location. And then that's when my dad became the pastor of the second location. That location probably has a couple thousand people, 2-ish, 3-ish.
Gotcha.
My like I said, but attend on the regular probably between 1,500, 2,000. My uncle's church the main church is much bigger. I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people. Kind of
as far as membership, right?
Yeah, probably on the roll. How many they see, each week. Couple thousand, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yes. So growing up, I was a youth pastor's daughter, and it had its ups and downs.
Can I ask you something real quick before you go a little bit further? Two-part question. Number one, the third church, how does that, who kind of is over, like who runs that third church, or how does that work? But then also, is your perception or whatever, like at this time that you were saying that you were the youth pastor's daughter, is this caught up in also being the senior pastor's niece, or is this only just strictly through your father?
So I guess growing up, I was both. So currently when I think of church, the two churches are separated now. So my dad is the senior pastor, and so of one church. And so when I talk about, so I kind of interact more with my father's congregation. And so the pressure that I feel currently, or over the last, I guess, 10 years of my life, has been more from my father's location. Growing up, so I moved to Georgia when I was in 5th grade. And so 5th grade through college, I guess, when my father stopped being youth pastor, maybe my 11th, 12th grade year.
Right.
And then he became associate pastor. Like I said, we were still at the main location. So then it was really the pressure of both. So being the pastor's niece and then being the youth pastor or the associate pastor's daughter. So I got it both ways. I didn't really get away from it at all, because I've learned that there are certain expectations that they hold for the pastor's family. Just certain, there's a pedestal that I felt like that I was on that I didn't necessarily want to be on. Right. There were certain expectations of me that I felt like that I had to meet, or that I have to meet. I won't even say past tense, but presently. And so it was difficult. But I'm a pretty good girl. For the most part, and so it wasn't like I had this, bad mean.
She like, you don't know my friends. Like if you knew what they was doing.
To the world. I'm pretty good. I can give you some other examples.
Right.
But the pressure, like I said, I'm 33 now, and I still feel the pressure. So all of my life I've been a preacher's kid. And all of my life I feel like I've felt pressure and had expectations on how I was supposed to act, dress, talk, who I date, who I'm friends with, all of those things.
Yeah. One last question. Did it elevate for you when your dad came from youth pastor to senior pastor? Did any type of expectation or pressure, anything elevate just from that?
Yes and no. So I think some of it was the same, but yes, as pastor, he touches more people directly. So as youth pastor, if your child, if the adult doesn't have a child, then he may not directly impact him. As a senior pastor, you impact the entire congregation. So I definitely feel like there was a shift. And when my dad was a youth pastor, I was a youth. But now as an adult, my dad has been a pastor, like I said. And so everyone's always known who he was, but everyone knows him and expect certain things of him as a pastor. And so then they expect certain things because now I'm part of the first family. So before I was the third family, whatever. Right.
Right.
But it's different when you're now the first family.
Right.
So there's definitely I think a difference.
Gotcha. No doubt. Okay, cool. Terry Wayne.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me, man.
Oh, I was just letting her go.
Yeah, no. No, for sure. But talk to me. Just tell me about just your whole setup as far as like your dad and how long he's been in the game, how long you've been sitting in that spotlight with him, I guess, so to speak.
Since I've been alive. My dad, as I have told you before, and I don't mind saying this because he talks about it, behind the pulpit. He was a pretty wild child growing up. He was dealing acid and pot all the way up until he was almost 18. And, he told me one day that he's like, I took a hit of acid every other day for a year.
Wow.
And I was like, anybody who knows anything about that drug, that's insane. That's crazy.
That's hardcore.
But his older brother kept trying to get him to come to church with him. And finally he gave up and he said, I'll give you 2 weeks. And if it doesn't change me, but famously in his story, it did change him. And that's when he stopped all that. By the time he was 18, 19, he was already trying to be a pastor. They wouldn't give him anything significant. So he started teaching Sunday school classes to basically toddlers, which was, I can imagine for an 18, 19-year-old guy, this must have been pretty humbling,
I can imagine,
to say the least.
Yeah,
but by the time he was 20, he was being sent to different places. That's when me and my sister started coming along the way. I'm Southern, so they had kids fairly young, so I believe my father was either 22 or 23 by the time I came along, and my sister had already been around for a year. And it was right around that time they had sent him to the Bahamas, where we lived on an island called Manowar for a while he preached there. Wow. They had already sent him to Hawaii, and these are all at the time these were all Pentecostal churches, which I don't know if you know anything about Pentecostals.
I do.
They're a wee bit strict.
A wee
bit strict.
Yeah.
Back and they have lightened up and progressed a little more from what I've heard. It's been a long time since I've been to a Pentecostal church, but yeah, back in the days when women couldn't wear pants or makeup or everything was very muted and and very pious if I'm being honest. But he kind of changed and progressed and went on to more non-denominational work, really just focusing more on the Bible than say the religion of it. He became more focused in the spirituality side of it. That way, because he's smart. He's got a lot of wisdom. So he's like, this is a hard sell.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm putting words in his mouth, but that's kind of the what I got away from it. He's like, I just want to get people to God. I don't really care how they get there.
For sure.
Like that was kind of I felt like his motivation to moving more towards a more progressive non-denominational. And now he doesn't have a set church. He's more of a missionary, and he goes to other places and preach. And preaches his sermons places in Africa and Bulgaria and Sweden and Norway. And he's been to some pretty wild spots. I believe the most he's ever preached for was around 20,000 in Nigeria.
Wow.
Yeah, and that he brought back some stories from that. He also brought back malaria, so that wasn't great. Yeah, but he also brought back some stories about how some of the tribesmen, how some of the witch doctors would throw green mambas on the stage while they were up there. Because obviously they don't want. What's
a green mamba?
It's one of the most deadly snakes in the world. Yeah, they were not pleased that these Christian pastors were there trying to spread that word. So
gotcha.
Man, and even though and I'm just like Kelly said, I still feel that pressure now. I'm almost 40 years old, and And before I agreed to be on this podcast, I called him and was like, look, I'm thinking about doing this thing, you know,
Right.
how hard of a hit do you think you're going to take on? Because anybody who knows me, you know, I've been a stand-up for almost 9 years. I touch on some pretty touchy subjects. I'm not really involved in any church at the moment, and have I guess, I mean, I think a lot of you know, Philistine style Christians would look at me, the people that go to church every Sunday, pay their tithes and their offerings and do everything they're supposed to. They would definitely look at me and just, you know, see an absolute mess. But they would, you know,
Right.
you know, but I've never gotten that from him. You know, he's always questioned. He's always supported me using my brain. You know, he's like, God gave you that brain, use it. If you have doubts, there's nothing to be ashamed about for having doubts. You know,
for sure.
If you doubt it, then just keep going. Try to work through it. You know, ask for evidence. And I haven't been tapped so far, but you know.
Gotcha. So was there ever a time throughout this whole duration that you ever felt like, not even so much from your father, but just from the outside world because of who your father is? Like, was there ever a time that you ever felt like you had to, even if now, that you felt like you had to, I guess, dilute yourself at times for the sake of protecting his name or his image?
Oh, 100%. And I've done it willingly. Because that's the thing, is when you feel like you're being forced to do something, that's when that inner, you know, angst comes out, where it's like, I've got a problem with authority and somebody just told me not to press a button, so that's the only button I want to press now. You know, that kind of thing. I always said, no, I love my dad. You know, I consider him to be my best friend. So I'm more than happy to just put on a face and do what I got to do, you know, to help. Like anybody who watches my podcast or listens to my comedy or follows me at all knows that I'm not, say, for instance, right now, a huge Trump fan. Right. But a couple of years ago, he was doing a benefit at Mar-a-Lago that was, you know, directly supported by that family. But I believe in him, and I believe in his nonprofit organization that they were raising money for. So I went and I worked you know, I helped run the event, even though I hated being there. There was a lot of different portraits being painted and sold and this and that. And, you know, it was like being at a Trump festival. But, you know, when you love people, you have to just support them regardless of whether you agree with them. And he's very much the same way with me, because obviously he doesn't agree with a lot of things I might say or do, but he's still my father and he loves me, you know? Gotcha. So I don't mind putting the suit on, you know, slicking the hair back, being the thing that I'm supposed to be. It doesn't bother me, because I do it willingly, not out of a feeling like I have to, but just out of love for my father. And what's wrong with that, you know?
Gotcha. Okay. I actually got a question for all of y'all based off of that, but I'll ask you after Janessa goes. So, Janessa, talk to us, please. Talk to us about, you know, your PK experience.
Well, this is year 20 for me. Actually, on Sunday is my dad's 20th pastoral anniversary. So we're getting ready for that. Yes. Our church, I think it probably has like 1,500 to 2,000 on books, but probably who like come maybe a few hundred, maybe 500 on like a Sunday basis. But I mean, we are in quarantine, so we're doing virtual right now. But 20 years being a PK, I have seen a lot. It's been a lot of pressure. I think it's gotten a lot better over the years, especially now that I'm 31. I'm real good and grown, so you can try to, like, you know, I guess, try to say something to me. I guess you can try to say something to my parents, you know, to get me in trouble, or if you don't approve of something. But I mean, what are they going to do at this point?
At this point,
of course,
absolutely.
I'm not going to be like rude or disrespectful or just, you know, blatantly a horrible person. But at 31, I just kind of feel like I can speak my mind more and know that I'm coming from a honest, real place compared to where I was a lot younger. And I think there was not only pressure, but I just felt like a lot of people were trying to talk in my ear, trying to like, whether it may be trying to say something to my parents through me or getting my parents to do something because I asked, or that whole, you know, game that was going on. I just kind of feel like now things are better, but in the very beginning, it absolutely sucked. Oh my gosh.
Oh, and by the way, just because of what she said, I am going to message everybody's relatives on here on Facebook and tell them that you're all pro-choice. That's how I'm going to stir the pot that way. I've been in the church 40 years. I know where the buttons are.
Yeah. Anything else you want to know? I'm not really.
Just so I guess with that being said, I guess kind of how I mentioned earlier, I think that we all, like I said, dealt with our different levels of pressure. But even going to something that Terry said, I ain't gonna say whether it helps or hurts, but it makes some sort of a difference when depending on how your parents actually feel about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing for just say the congregation or the world or whoever to have a perception about you, but like, I think we more or less chase for our parents' approval more than, you know, anything. Which is why we do the things that we do and say, you know, not be disrespectful, so on and so forth. But this is one question that I do have for all of y'all based off of something that Terry said as well. We were talking about, like, basically, like, we will, in certain situations, we will dilute our, if you want to say, quote unquote, natural self, like the person who you would be at your most comfortable stage. Like, if you're around certain people, you know, even your parents, like you'll either dilute that or prop it up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll put on some sort of a mask, if you will. My question is, do our parents, specifically the preachers, do they ever have to do that for us? For whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Like if I were to invite, just say, my parents to a comedy show, and this isn't my reality, but I'm just making an example. And my dad is a pastor. Just say, like, this comedy show was at a strip club. You know what I'm saying? Like, is my dad not allowed to come to my comedy show because, like, I'm intermission between, you know, ass and titties? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
listen, I know what you're saying. My father has come to a number of my shows, dude, and I've done shows at strip clubs, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, it was hard enough getting my girlfriend to come to strip clubs to watch comedy shows. But no, my dad's not going to a strip club just because I'm performing there. That's never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. I think I know him well enough. He would probably say, "Well, when's your next show after that? I'll come to 2 shows after that to make up for it. How about that?"
And
okay, but I'm saying, but even if you're, sorry to cut you off, Kelly, but just say your next show, okay, it's at a club, it's at a, you know what I'm saying, it's at a bar with 2 drink minimum, and we ain't talking about water. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh no, he's come to those. Right,
but the whole point that I'm making is that well, I mean, I guess you pretty much answered the question.
You're basically saying relative morality. You're saying if you'll come in and have drinks out somewhere and watch me, then why not come in and see me at the titty joint, right? Is that what you're doing?
No, not so much. I mean, I just transitioned from the what you call the titty joint. Just because I just transitioned from that because you were just saying like, okay, he wouldn't go there. So I'm just saying, okay, well, even the next thing from there could even just be because comedy for the most part is not being done in, you know, some holy of holy place. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Right. Regardless of wherever it is, you feel what I'm saying? So I'm just asking just them coming into your environment because like all of us have grown up to become who we are. You feel what I'm saying? And our parents are who they are, regardless of who we are and vice versa. But what I'm saying is we always are very cognizant of knowing when to have on which hat, depending on who we're in front of, whatever like that, because we don't want the wrong perception or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, but is it okay if our parents are willing to just say jeopardize their perception by saying like, well, if my son is performing at this, you know, hole in the wall where the dude next to me was doing a line of coke, I went there to support my son, you know, and the congregation just got to get over it. Or does he say, well, I'll wait till you get big enough to get in the theater where I ain't got to be around that foolishness? That's what I'm asking. But Kelly, go ahead.
So I'm not a comedian, and I'm not, I'm not, you know, and I don't have a profession where, you know, like a comedian where I may be at a strip club, you know, doing something. But let's say I decided to be a stripper, and I wanted my father to see, you know, what I do. He's not coming.
Right.
You know, that might be wrong on a different level.
I'm about to say, I mean, yeah, that's a little.
Dad, so, why won't you come see me get buck naked and wild?
You're right.
Why won't you come, Dad? I don't care if your dad was a plumber. He shouldn't be going to watch strip. What's the matter with you?
I mean, I think stripping is an art, but anyway,
takes strength.
Yeah.
I mean,
somebody else's daughter, not your own.
A lot of cocaine addicts are artists then.
But let's say I was a music artist because I want to be, you know,
right.
And my, like you said, my set was in the intermission of, you know, I wouldn't ask my father to come. I wouldn't expect him to come. And I would understand if I asked him to come, his reservations and his resistance to coming, not only because he's a pastor, but because of who he is in general. That's just not him. And so I wouldn't expect him to jeopardize who he is as a person to come and see me in that arena. I wouldn't feel any less supported, you know, because I know, like I said, now he may come to the hole in the wall where the person next to him is snorting coke. Now he probably gonna lay hands and pray because my daddy is a praying man, honey. And so he probably gonna have his oil and lay hands and pray on you. But he'll probably come into the hole in the wall with the person snorting a line of coke before he comes to see me do my performance at Magic City. Because my father, anyone who knows my father, is the one who used to bring the youth to lay hands on the strip clubs in Atlanta. And we used to pray for the strippers. We used to pray for the people coming, the people coming to the strip club. And we used to pray for the parking lot, for everything, to cast out those things. So
your daddy got King of Diamonds shut down in Miami. And he shut down the Players Club. You got to play.
I mean, talk about, you know, and not to toot my father's horn, you know, but when Janessa said my father is the best youth pastor ever, you know, but just talk about outside of the box. Like he was one to go and lay hands on the strip, like bring a church bus to Magic City in the middle of the day. You know, it's still some activity going on in the middle of the day, and we out there laying hands and praying. So no, but I would not to answer your question. I would not expect him.
That's admirable. I remember when I was like 25, I had a conversation with my father about this kind of very thing. And I spouted a line and he loved it so much that he ended up using it for years, which I told him, I was like, look, if you really care about your cause, if you really care about your religion, which is supposed to be spreading the word of God. The last place you should be doing it is inside of a sanctuary, because everybody that's in there is already looking for God, already found it, or they're looking for it. I said church is the last place Christians should be. Like, you know, I think that my actual quote was, church is no place for good Christians. They should be out at places like strip clubs or malls or parking lots where teenagers are hanging out, or bars, biker bars, trying to reach out to people. And not only that, you got to look past all this perception bullshit that's been plaguing me for decades, plaguing, I'm sure you guys for decades too, about having to maintain this image or else the material's no good anymore. It's ridiculous. If I ran a church ever in my life, there'd be a smoking section in the back and a wet bar near the pulpit where you can get drinks if you want. I don't care. If that's the way you want to live, then live your life. It doesn't mean God loves you any less. It doesn't mean you have any less value. It just means maybe you're a bad steward, or, you know, it's harder for you to make good choices or whatever, but it's not our place to judge.
Janessa, did you have anything?
No, Kellie just killed it, because I think my dad and her dad are very similar. He would not be there. Also, my dad is older, and my church is more traditional Southern Baptist, and so my dad's in the bed at 7. So it's a wrap. It's a wrap. My dad's in his 60s.
7. Oof.
That's just not his thing.
He didn't even stay up for 60 minutes. Nothing.
No.
But see this, but this is what I was going to ask you, Kellie. Even going back to the whole singing thing. So let's just say, regardless of where it was, it doesn't have to be in a strip club. Let's just, whatever the ideal venue that your dad would come see you do your secular music. Would you then have to? Well, I ain't gonna do this song tonight because my dad coming. You know what I'm saying? This the one everybody love, but you know what I'm saying? This, I usually gotta, toot it up a little too far. You know what I'm saying, on this dance move, and I don't want him to. You know what I'm saying? Are you altering now?
What if you're covering WAP? Is he coming?
Well, it's WAP. It's WAP. It's WAP.
WAP. Okay, well I'm white, so it's WAP.
I got you.
Don't be culturally insensitive. All right?
If that was a lane that I decided to go in, so to Terry's point earlier about how close a relationship him and his dad have, if I would decided that, first of all, I'm not gifted in singing or dancing, but if the Lord had blessed me with those gifts, and he didn't bless me with them on purpose because he knew me being a preacher's kid and it being blessed with those gifts, it just wasn't going to work out well. Because I probably would have been more out there had I been able to dance, for sure. But, if I was blessed with those gifts and I was going to sing, and I don't know if he wouldn't mind if I sang secular music, like I said, but if it was something like a WAP or, more of a Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B type of, laced with inappropriate language and curse words, I would really have to sit and have that I would have to be in a space where it didn't bother me what he thought. I would really, really have to be in that space, and it would be a.
Are you in that space now?
I'm not. Well, I still value what my parents think about me. I don't think I would.
Well, that brings up a good question, which is when we act that way, and when we put on the prim to put out a certain perception towards other people, do we do it out of love for our parents, or do we do it out of fear of judgment from our parents? Are we going to feel like a disappointment if we don't live up to those expectations, or are we just doing it because we want to make them look good?
Good question, Terry.
Terry coming with the same Bible study. Come on,
good question, Terry. No, but
that's real. I am the elder here.
I got 40 years in the game.
Almost. I still have 5 months left. But
that's fine. You're way further than any of us.
He said, but y'all said early 30s. He said, I'm past that.
Right. For me, I mean, I'll answer that question first. For me, I will say this. I mean, people would think that because I am a comedian, that is like my, I guess, scapegoat or whatever like that. But like for me, my comedy isn't far off from just who I am as a person. You know what I'm saying? Like the same. I don't like make, just say for instance, like gay jokes in private, but then get on stage and then don't say them because people are listening. You know what I'm saying? I just don't make gay jokes. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not really like a, you know, I'm living this real dark life behind closed doors and then, you know, coming to the light, whatever. So like for me, I am just aware that all of us, regardless of where we stand with God, your job, or whoever else, like you are who you are. You know what I'm saying? And if you are a person who for the rest of your life will always just say tiptoe around your parents, you're that person because that's just who God created you to be. If you're a person who, you know, is just like, man, I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? That's just who God created you to be. Can you change? Probably so, but that's neither here nor there. But just where I'm at, I was never really ever concerned with my parents because my parents have just always just, you know, been pretty chill like that. They've always been, you know, I guess church folk, but they've never been like, you know, like when we were at home, like we watched, you know, movies that, you know, had cursing in it, sex, whatever, you know what I'm saying? We listened to, you know, Lil Jon, Ludacris, Usher, you know, growing up in the land, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? They weren't like, I mean, we had to listen to gospel, we had to go to church, Bible study, whatever, but we weren't like kept away from like the world to that degree. You know what I'm saying? Right. But for me, when I first was transitioning in reference to like putting my comedy and stuff on like, you know, online for people to see, I would try to like at first like try to find ways to like edit the cursing out and stuff like that because like, you know, these church folks see it, they're gonna be all, you know, in my inbox or whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? But then over time, you know, I just got to a place of like I've mentioned before, I am who I am. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, we always say like, well, only God can judge me and I got to stand before God when it's all said and done, blah, blah, blah. So if that is true, that means that if I rob people at night, but I preach the gospel during the daytime, when I die, I'm still gonna be held accountable for robbing people at nighttime. Even though nobody on earth knew about it. I will die a saint and everybody be like, boy, every day he woke up and he preached that gospel. They had no idea I was robbing people at nighttime. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just the perception. That's all they seen. That's all I showed them. It does not mean I wasn't doing it. You feel what I'm saying? So if I'm doing whatever I'm doing anyways, why would I? Because to whatever I'm doing, I'm not ashamed of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think what I'm doing is wrong. I'm not. If I felt like I was doing something wrong, then I would just stop doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like I have corrected myself on things over time. Like I haven't always gotten it right, but like if I ever feel like oh, I don't think this is right, I'm just gonna just not do it altogether. You know what I'm saying? So the way being that I live my life just in that aspect of behind the scenes closed door, like the most that you'll see change for me when the camera comes on is that I may just be a more animated version of myself. Because like when I'm just at home, I'm much quieter. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of just to myself. But my sense of humor is the same. I still think the same things are funny. I still think, you know, I still talk and act and whatever, you know, the same way. So to answer your question, to make a long story just a little bit shorter. Yeah. I was at that point where I was worried about perception, but it was never so much about my parents. My parents have just always kind of been pretty chill, to their credit. But and my mom, I would say to her, I guess I don't know if credit or whatever, but for her, she was the person, if anybody, who definitely was worried about my perception more than me. Like she would just be like, "Man, do you got to do this on camera?" Like, yeah, like why not? You know what I'm saying? Like you know, like 'cause she was the one who wanted me to be like, I mean, if you gonna do something, whatever, like just don't let nobody see you. And I'm just like, nah, you know what I'm saying? I'm not on that because
Well, where's the line between respecting your parents and respecting their beliefs and feeling like you're selling yourself out? Like, where's the line there?
Well,
okay. I think it just really depends on how you go into it, feeling. Like I said before, if I choose to do it because I respect my father and his beliefs, then it feels a lot better than if, oh, I have to do it because of this reason. And now I feel like I'm selling myself out, which I don't think it really has to be that way. I think you could just, you could do it from a good place of caring, and it doesn't make you feel so,
but I'm not at a place. I'm not at a place of whether I'm like trying to feel like a sellout or not. Like I'm just, my whole thing is like, I feel like when you get into Christianity, whether you were born into it or whether you get into it late, you don't get saved and then all of a sudden just lose every single sinful nature that you had. You don't do that. But what we learn to do is we learn to hide it. You just, all you learn to do is you go to school, you act a certain way around those friends, you go to church on Sunday, you're a completely different person. I've done it all my life. You know what I'm saying? And it had nothing to do with preacher's kid or not. I just know how to act around church people. You feel what I'm saying? And so for me,
yes, but do you do it to hide who you are, or do you do it out of respect for the people around you?
That's what I was doing it to hide it because I felt like if they knew, they would judge me. And
you're the problem. I
was the problem. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You're doing it to hide. You should have been doing it. Just be like, oh, well, maybe I'll just be nice to them and not do the things I know they're gonna hate.
You froze a little bit. Say it one more time.
Oh, I'm saying like in your mind, you should have been like, well, these are nice, kind people, and because of that, I'm not gonna do the things around them that I know they will hate. You know, like when I was a teenager, I used to cuss all the time, but I would never cuss in front of anybody at church because I know that it would offend them. So why would I do that? You know?
But see, this is the thing about it, though. This is the thing about it. I would hide all of that stuff up until the point that I found that I wasn't the only one. Because I honestly thought I was literally the only kid in my whole church who was thinking the stuff that I was thinking, sneaking and watching the stuff that I was sneaking and watching, and saying the stuff that I was saying. Until I found out that there was people doing way worse things than me.
Yeah, that's a preacher move right there.
Inside the church.
That's textbook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, inside the church.
We go up.
Right. But listen to me.
Because it's more serious.
Listen to me. And so, and even their parents. I told Kellie the same story before, offline. Like I remember growing up, being even just say 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever, I would go to just say a kid in my church, they would go to their house for their birthday party, right? And their parents are allowing us to be turned the up. And I'm talking about blasting music, kids twerking on each other. But I mean, this is a whole thing. The teenagers everywhere. And their parents, all the parents offered, these church folk, all the parents offered another room, drinking their little wine, beer, whatever, having a conversation while the kids party. You feel what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm about to blow you away.
So what I'm saying, so this is what I'm saying. So for me, I don't think I was ever in a position to worry about them just being nice people and it may offend them. I never wanted people to look at me as a bad person because I had sinful things going on about me that I felt, you know what I'm saying, that I was told was wrong. But once I realized that, oh, we all in this together, you know what I'm saying, it changed. That's when my mind began to change, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, because your statement just now about talking about these church people that would let their kids party and wouldn't care and party with them and do this, that you're doing the exact same thing to them that they do to you, that they do to us. You know what I mean? You're acting as if they're people that go to church every Sunday and are active in their religion or their congregation, that for some reason this makes them somewhat higher or more expectations are necessary. No, sin doesn't live in the church. It lives in the hearts of men and women that walk around. Like if you believe in that, then you have to believe it's in you. You take it everywhere you go. And I mean, I've seen it. I saw it for decades, you know, scandals and hearsay and gossip and this and that. I always told, I always used to make the joke, like, if you ever want to have an affair, just go to church, like, because they're there. Like, it happens all the time. And I mean, you see hypocrisy when it comes to these TV evangelists. You know, they'll get caught in a hotel room with a male prostitute and some meth. Like, it's in you. The darkness doesn't reside in a building nor outside of it. You know, it's in you. So, you know, the outward perception that we put out about ourselves and who we are is one thing, but anybody that's so pious as to think themselves better than somebody else because, you know, you pay your tithes every week and you don't watch dirty movies, or you don't wear pants, or, I mean, we go right back to Pentecostalism like that, you know. Or we can go even further. We can go into the Orthodox Jewish community. We can go into the halal for Islamic. You know, radicals are radicals. They're just always going to be around. But we don't have to bend to that, but we can respect, you know, the way they feel about things, just out of common courtesy.
Ladies, I know we're talking a lot, so I wanted to give y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Janessa, you barely spoke at all. I know you're nervous, Janessa, but speak.
I'm just trying to process everything that's being said. I'm just like, oh. I need like a notepad, because I feel like I had notes for everything that everybody said, and now I kind of forgot them.
Okay, well then let me ask y'all this then, and the ladies, you can answer first. So how has your relationship with God, specifically belief in God, however you want to view it, how has that changed, if it has, how has that changed from, you know, just being a child, like, you know, and growing up, compared to like you being adult now and establishing your version or your own relationship with God and who you understand him to be and how you and him operate, you know what I'm saying, compared to everything that you were taught, you know, and how you were brought up as a child, you know, what's that comparison or contrast?
My relationship with God has gotten better as I've gotten older. I feel like I kind of went through some things in college and in my 20s where I really had to get to know God myself without my parents. Being in college, you know, I wasn't going to my parents' church every Sunday. And I went to college in Georgia. So I'm actually appreciative of like having that different, I don't know, just being able to experience God a different way. I tell people all the time, like, as a PK, you hear your parents talk at home and you have to hear them talk at church. And so sometimes it's like you hearing them all the time can be overwhelming. Like you just need somebody else's perspective, somebody else's experience, somebody else who is not so close to your situation. Because I think like growing up, you know, if I was mad at my parents, who am I supposed to go talk to? Because I can't talk to people at church, because then they're going to spread, you know, gossip about what you said, or you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, and then it gets back to your parents. So I felt very isolated sometimes as a teenager and as a kid. And so when I kind of got out on my own, I kind of had to unlearn some things that I had learned in the church, and then determine for myself, like, what was important to me versus what I was taught. Because I know, like, like I said, at my church is really traditional, old school. You know, we had some of the people who would like get on you for wearing pants or dangly earrings, and it's like, so wait, God doesn't love me because I wear dangly earrings and pants, you know, stuff like that. But I like where me and God are now. And I think now I can have like real conversations with my parents and come from, you know, a honest perspective, and you know, they're very receptive to what I have to say, which is great, because we weren't always there. We weren't always there. My parents are very traditional too, so you know, sometimes like they are just stuck in how they were raised and just how they do things, and here I come bursting in, you know, with just kind of a new school approach to life, and we just bumped heads a lot, but thank God for the growth.
Gotcha. Kellie Lee?
I think for me, similar to Janessa in that growing up, you know, I felt like I knew God through what the church told me. And so, you know, like I said, my dad was also my youth minister. And so when we went to, you know, so on Sunday and Tuesday night Bible studies, you know, I heard my dad, you know, and so I didn't even really get away from him then. But as Janessa said, going through college, and then after college, I moved to Delaware, and going through experiences when I could not rely on my parents or, you know, my father's relationship with God, I had to find the Lord for myself. Is definitely a different space. My parents are conservative but relaxed at the same time. But like I said, so I feel like I've and my mother is real, like probably one as real as they come. And so you know, we were able to have some, you know, some real conversations kind of growing up. And even now the dichotomy between my mother and father is crazy sometimes. You know, but like I said, I agree with Janessa in that my relationship with God is different now. In growing up, you know, it was definitely more facilitated through my dad's relationship with the Lord, what the church told me I needed to do, what was right, what was wrong, what I could and couldn't do, you know. And then of course, when I got to college, and I went to college in Atlanta as well. And I did not go to church at my parents' church except on holidays. You know, I still went to church every Sunday because that was ingrained in me. You know, for the most part, I went to church at least freshman year. Now, sophomore, when I got my own apartment, junior, senior year, it's a little shaky. But you know, but like she said, like you go through life experiences where you have to find God for yourself. Like my father's faith in God is not going to save me from where I am right now. And I don't even want to tell my father where I am right now for him to pray for me to get out of this right now. And so I think that's what strengthened my personal relationship with God and leads me to where I am now. Now, my father, like I said, is a praying man, and very much just about every time I talk to him, did you have your quiet time? Did you pray? You know, and so he, you know, continues to try to you know, help me along this path of knowing the Lord for myself. But I definitely feel like my relationship is stronger now than it was as a child, because then it was, like I said, what somebody else told me I should have done versus I tested those waters in college and let me see what I can and can't do and what happens. And then there's some consequences to sinning. If y'all didn't know, there are some consequences to sin. You know, and I learned that for myself, and the Lord and I had to work through that. So definitely a difference.
Gotcha. What about you, Tara?
Mine's going to be a little different.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm not in the same place I was by a very long shot. But I don't think it has as much to do with the church or you know, its members or anything like that, or even my position, you know, as a preacher's kid. I think it's just the more I got out in the world and the more I experienced different things and the more I got educated in different things, essentially the more I started studying science and philosophy, like just crisis of faith just comes with that. You know what I mean? Right now, the only thing that I can't stand about religion is when you get to the people that are too arrogant about their beliefs, right? Because they're called beliefs for a reason, right? It's the people that say, I know there's a God, and I know he hears me, and I know there's a heaven, and I know this, and I know that. Well, if you know it, then faith is eradicated. You can't have faith and facts at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. If we knew that Christ lived for a fact and that he was the Son of God for a fact, then there is no faith. Do you see what I'm saying? faith comes in that 10% that is unprovable. So, I mean, when I hear people say, I know, that's just a huge turnoff to me. When somebody says, do I think there's a God? I always say the same thing. I hope there is.
Right.
Do I believe it? I'm very left brained, so it's hard for me to leap out onto faith. The Bible says that God gives every man a mustard seed of faith, meaning even the most callous of us has a mustard seed. And I'm not saying that I'm a mustard seed, but maybe like a walnut, like
right.
not that bad.
Right.
But I hope there is. I hope there's a God. I hope that there's more meaning to life than just this.
So I have an interesting question for you then, Terry, because
Sure.
I was actually going to kind of end on that, but this sparked something. Because you made the point earlier when you were saying like you will or will not do something, or somebody may or not so much you, but somebody should probably may or may not do something out of respect for, just say, that person's beliefs. So
right.
Obviously right now you and your father have two different beliefs when it comes down to God, because I would imagine he's not necessarily hoping there's a God. He's more or less on the no side, but you're more or less on the hope side. You know what I'm saying? Am I correct in saying
and I've
that?
had this conversation with him too.
Right.
Oh, you should hear some of our late night talks that go for a couple
Well,
hours.
It's not about that. So, but what I'm saying is, so with you having that respect for what he does believe, is it because the simple fact that he's your father, or do you actually respect what he believes? Like,
it's not because he's my father. Because he's my dad. I've known him my whole life. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I have no fear of, like some people go through life thinking like, oh, my parent's going to disown me if I do this or that. He would never turn his back on me ever. So there's no fear there. But am I gonna shit all over everything he spent his whole life on? No, of course not. How terrible would I be to do something like that? We have interesting conversations and we go back and forth. And I go to him seeking knowledge and wisdom on the subject because I want to hear what he has to say. I do respect him, and I do respect, the countless years that he spent studying theology to understand it better. So no, I'm not. I don't say that because I respect him, though. I'm not saying that I'm saying it because he could just as well be right, just as well as I could. You know what I mean? That's the beautiful thing about it. Stephen Hawking, one of the most brilliant minds of the last 100 years, said, I have just as much proof to disprove God as I do to prove God. It's just one of those things that you can't prove nor disprove. So it would be equally arrogant for me to say, I know there isn't a God, as it is for somebody else to say, I know there is one. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean in the sense of that statement. What I don't get is how do you, I don't see how you say that about anything, whether you're talking about God or anything. Like I feel like you're gonna be on the side of either something is or isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
Like we are on this Zoom call. You know what I'm saying? Like no matter what anybody says, like we are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like regardless of what you believe, like we're convinced because like from what our brains can conceive, like you log on to Zoom, whatever, you show up, this is what Zoom call is. So in that same regards, like to say like I'm not sure if there's a God or not, and I'm trying to figure it out, I think that's one thing. But to say like that nobody can either be on the side of saying, yes, there is one, or no, there isn't, that statement, I don't.
I'm saying I'm agreeing with Stephen Hawking. I'm saying
right.
There is equal as much evidence to prove that there is a God as there
right.
is to disprove there's a God. Nobody could say for sure 100%. It's the same thing that the Bible says about that mustard seed of faith, right? That means that even the most 100% ardent person who believes in their religion, who believes in their God, they're going to have a mustard seed of doubt in them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's a double-edged sword. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with changing your position either. You know, there's nothing wrong with being religious for half your life and then being agnostic the other half of your life, or even atheist for that matter. Just like there isn't anything wrong with being atheist for half of your life and then being religious for the other half. Like life, just like religion, is an evolution. We learn and we progress as we go along. All the time when new information comes in, we're constantly evolving not only our opinions and thoughts, but also our beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Okay.
Ladies, I think that God would understand that, because if God exists, then he made me. So he knows that sometimes I can be a dick. So
no, I agree.
You know,
right. I agree.
But,
I mean, he definitely
again, if he exists,
if
God, that's my ultimate thing is I always come back to whether God exists. If God exists, then I love him for the world he has created, as well as me and the life he has given me. I love him for that. My thing is my left brain has a trouble, you know, that part with science and philosophy and history. That's the part that has a problem trying to accept the fact of whether he exists or not. Do you get what I'm saying? That's my struggle as a person.
Right. No, I got you. I told
you wouldn't like it.
No. It's not that I didn't like it. I mean, it just didn't answer my question. But
there is no answer.
But I was just more or less speaking on just the fact of you just saying the definitive of nobody. It would be arrogant for anybody to choose one side or the other. Is more or less what I would say, as opposed to just the generalization of it. But nonetheless,
I think the only correct answer is to keep your mind open and your ears open, and just always continue to be learning, trying to keep growing. And, you know, if your opinion evolves, it evolves. You know, if your beliefs evolves, it evolves. But to say a definitive either way, I think is wrong.
Okay.
That's as best as I can put it, man. Like
no. I mean, I got it from the first time. I just don't fathom the math, I guess, in that. But nonetheless, Kellie or Janessa, did y'all have anything else? I know I don't want us to, you know, I guess go off on our rant.
Nope. This has been great.
No.
I feel like I lost the ladies on that last bit. But that's fine.
No, I appreciate your perspective. I think whether I appreciate your perspective, where I agree or disagree is irrelevant, but I think I appreciate it, because I think what happens is, for me, that as it relates to spirituality and religion, most of the people that I associate with have similar beliefs as I do, have similar thoughts as I do, you know, and so that the conversations that I have are pretty predictable or expected, because we kind of all think the same way about things. And so
it's called an echo chamber.
Yeah, you know, and so I appreciate your thoughts and your perspective on it, because it for me personally, it hasn't been brought to me that way before. I haven't, you know, so the way you just expressed it, like, I hadn't thought about that. And so I appreciate that. Because like I said, majority, and it made me think of majority, I haven't had that conversation. And so I know majority of the people that I talk to, you know, about God, about religion, about Christianity, about spirituality, like I said, there's this underlying similarity. And so to hear yours today, like I said, I appreciate it, and something, you know, that I'm going to think about.
And the thing is, I'm not trying to cast anybody's faith in a certain way. I'm saying that faith is made more beautiful through doubt, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you can have doubts on your faith and then push them aside and say, no, I choose to believe what I believe, it makes it better. It makes your faith stronger. You know, it doesn't make you weaker.
But I don't see how you have faith when you're not choosing what you're having faith in or not. Because when you're saying, like, nobody can definitively say that there is a God or isn't, then you're not having faith in anything. Like you're just like, I'm just going to stay mutual so that I don't choose the wrong thing. That's not having faith. That's just playing it safe. That's the opposite of faith.
No, I'm not making a choice. Period.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's my point.
Well, right, exactly. But that's what I am doing is I'm trying to live my life the best that I can live it. Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say that one day I'll be judged by God or one day I won't be. I'm just going to say that I'm going to choose the morality that I have set for myself in my life, and I'm going to live it that way. And if one day I get judged by God, then he will judge me appropriately. But at least he's judging me. He's not judging me by a set of actions that I'm following or a set of rules that I'm following. He's judging me by who I choose to be. And if I'm ever going to be judged, that's what I want to be judged by.
Right. But what I'm saying is, and that's a perfectly fine, thing to live by. But all I'm saying is, but when it comes to just saying that you have faith in something, you're choosing to not have faith or even just transfer the word to believe whether there is a God or isn't. You're just saying, if it happens to be one, then I'll cross that bridge when you get there. That's not faith. That's just saying, we'll just see what happens.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm going to live by the morality that I have set for myself.
No, I get that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
And hopefully, if God exists and he judges me at the end of my life, hopefully that I've chosen a morality that is acceptable by him. Hopefully. And if it isn't, that's okay too, because that's me making a decision about who I am going to be. Not out of fear, not out of a sense of loyalty or a sense of following the rules, but it's literally me choosing what I think is a good enough person. And if it's not, then that was my choice and I'll suffer the consequences for it. And if it is, then I'll suffer the rewards, but at least I'm doing it independently.
Right. I get that. But you're still going to go into it not believing whether there is a God or not, is what I'm saying. You're just going to, no, I guess the final question I'm asking, because we can end it. I don't want to drag this on any longer, but what I'm saying is with the same lifestyle that you're choosing to live and hoping that it's okay, you're going to go to your grave with having this mindset of not deciding whether what you've chosen to live will be judged by God or not. You'll just die and find out if there even is a God to even judge you by it, is what you're saying. You're gonna find out. You're just gonna find out once you get there, as opposed to believing that that's definitely going to happen once you get there. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Basically, I'm gonna try to be the best person I can be, and hopefully, if God exists, he takes kindly to that. And if he doesn't, then that I made my choices, and that's it. Right. But I'm not gonna say definitively whether I think that God exists or not, because I don't know. It just seems arrogant. To me. I'm not putting that on anybody else.
I get the statement. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just like, it's just, for me, like I said, it's just a very interesting perspective because I've just never heard it presented in that way.
Me either.
Yeah, it's just super, you have this kind of, box of life and, and what things look like, in that perspective just doesn't fall into, so like I said, I see where you're coming from. Like, logically, can I not say that you don't make sense? I see where you're coming from. Again, do I agree? Not necessarily, because I not at all, because I believe that there is a God, because
right.
Because I believe there is a God.
But you said you believe, which is great. I think that's great. I think belief is beautiful. I wish I had more of it myself.
Right, and so like I said, it's just I enjoy, like you mentioned earlier, keep your ears open, have an open mind. And like I said, since so many of my friends and the people I associate with are so similar to me, to have this dialogue with someone, to bring a different perspective, like I said, is interesting. Not that I feel like you're forcing that on any of us or whatever. I just think it's interesting because it's just a perspective that I had never to say that it's arrogant.
I want to throw this out there because I feel like he feels unsatisfied by my answer. So I'll tell you this, Rudy.
No. I'm not.
If you were to ask me a question, what do I think most likely death is like? Then I would give you another answer. Not a belief, but if I had to go, because as you said, I'm very logical, very left-brain kind of personality. If you were to ask me, what do I most likely think death is like? I think it's like before you were born, right? Because the world was around for tens of thousands and millions of years before you. So I think that death most likely will be just like before you were born. The world spins, people live their life. You're not aware of it nor unaware of it. You're just non-existent.
But you know what? That's called having faith, because you actually definitively believe that. And what I'm saying,
no, I said that's most likely.
But I'm saying, you've made a decision that's what, like, you're choosing to have faith once again, because faith has doubt in it. You're choosing to have faith with doubt that it could be whatever, but that's you still definitively choosing that. But what I'm saying is
I'm saying that's probably most likely the answer. That's right. Most likely the correct answer. But if you ask me if I think there's a God, I still say I hope there is, and that's my faith.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm clear on what you're saying.
All right.
I'm very, very clear on what you're saying. I just don't understand the math. Is all I'm simply saying on you definitively saying that nobody can definitively say that there isn't or isn't a God. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
no,
that's where I'm missing the mark. So like that was the whole thing for me, because you were very clear on, like, that's a matter of fact that nobody can, and I just don't see how, like, if somebody just choose there isn't a God, I can see that more than saying that nobody can choose either or. You feel what I'm saying?
No, I'm not saying you can't choose that. I'm saying you can't prove it. Nobody can prove God either way. And it has to be that by design.
But is it more or less us proving God or God proving himself to us?
Well, it's God won't prove himself to us. There's a line in the Bible about, well, if God exists, then run up to the top of the pyramid and leap yourself off. And then immediately following that scripture says,
but that's not God proving us to. That's you tempting God.
No, he's saying leap yourself off of the top of the pyramid and let your God save you to where I can see it. And they said, no, do not tempt thy Lord.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's tempting. What I'm saying is, but God proving himself to me, like the reason why I know that God is real and I'm past the point of even believing is because, like, I am living proof. Like, I can tell you, like, my story, and either you can still make the determination that this was happenstance or it was God, but it definitely wasn't either. It wasn't outside of either or. It wasn't anybody or anything. You would just hear it and be like, okay, well, there's definitely a higher power or a God, or you'll just be like, well, you just the luckiest, son of a whatever in the world. You know what I'm saying? And and you'll just leave it at that. But I'm saying, but I have proof. You feel what I'm saying? And it's not my job to force the proof God has given me on anybody, but at the same time, I'm definitely willing to share it, and that may help somebody get that definitive answer. And if somebody doesn't have a definitive answer, I think that's okay, but I don't think that we can ever say that nobody could ever get to a definitive answer because I'm at one.
Right, but you get what I'm saying by you're saying that you know 100% that God exists. By saying that, you are saying you have no faith.
How so?
Because, okay, for instance, I don't have any faith in gravity because I know that if I jump off a building, I'm going straight down. So I don't have to have faith in gravity because I know it 100%.
Right, but I'm saying, but to even have salvation, that's faith-based. That's believing in your heart and confessing with your mouth. That's faith-based in the action of what happened. Jesus dying and God raising him from the dead. So I wasn't there to see that, but I have to believe that happened. You feel what I'm saying? Stop
moving your hands so much. Your whole screen's shaking.
Well, that's because I was rocking my desk, but I have proof. I have proof that God is real, but I wasn't there at the crucifixion and the resurrection. So that still takes faith for me to even believe that. You feel what I'm saying? So it's a faith-based thing, because even with God, like I don't know what he looks like or I wasn't here when Jesus walked the earth or whatever. So there's things that still require faith within having a relationship with God. There's things that requires me having faith in y'all with this podcast. I have to trust that if you say you're gonna come back next week, you're gonna be here. That takes faith. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so what I'm saying is it's all wrapped up into it, but at the same time, with me having a definitive answer, if God is real, I can say 100% absolutely. And it surpasses the relationship that my parents taught me to have with God. Like, they gave me a good foundation, true, but I definitely know God for myself, 100%. And, you know, and I don't have to, we can get into
that's
that
a great way to
out
say
later, but that's, you know, that's 100%. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody else is still unsure, fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying, me speaking for me personally, I'm 100.
I don't know. Janessa looks very uncomfortable though.
I feel bad that we're just really dominating this conversation, but I don't want to force y'all to have to, you know, jump. It got pretty deep, so you know I didn't.
Yeah, maybe we went too deep for episode 1. Maybe talking about Stephen Hawking and Voltaire.
Right.
Stuff. Yeah, maybe.
No doubt. No, that's enough for us, Terry. We can do a part 2 or 3, you know, at a later date. But so Janessa, did you have anything that you wanted to add just to the conversation before we wrap things up? I want to give you a chance to speak if you wanted to.
Believe in God.
I never said I didn't.
100.
I believe God is real.
100%.
I have faith.
I guess I'm one arrogant little thing.
I didn't mean it like that.
No, it's not.
That's hilarious. That is funny.
No, but
I think it's important that people are able to, you know, express how they feel and not necessarily, you know, be attacked or because of how they feel. So like Kelly, I think it was great to kind of just hear a different perspective because I've never heard that perspective either.
Right.
And it didn't sway me because I still believe God is real and I still have faith. And
if this idiot stand-up comic can sway your faith, did you ever really have it? No. I'm just a moron with different ideas, you know. But I'm a blind man seeking in the dark for something to grab onto. You know?
No, I think where you're at is fair. I don't disagree where you're at. It was just that particular statement. It's not your whole stance. It was just that one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of irked you. I saw that. Yeah.
No, it didn't irk me. It's great. It's great conversation. This is what I brought y'all here for. This is
years and years of debates with my father. Back and forth. Not yelling, scream. No, like really thought-provoking discussions about the reality of morality and religion. You know, because my first question is like, okay, if our religion is right, then what's up with all the other ones? You know, to me, it always comes back to the first commandment: "Thou shalt not hold any other gods before me." Well, that statement is basically an admission that there are other gods,
right?
And you should hold none before me. I'm the number one God.
Yeah, but you could go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead, Kelly.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
the 10 Commandments.
Right. That's a whole nother podcast.
We should just fade out the video and just put "to be continued" right here. Like, just don't even do no outros. Just "to be continued." And then next week fades back in and Kelly just going off. First of all,
let me just go change my shirt real quick. Everybody just gonna change your shirt real quick.
Right. Make it look like a totally different day.
Little G guys.
I'm sitting here looking at these 4 squares and I keep going back to Sesame Street. Like, one of these things is not like the other. And not even for the obvious reasons. You know?
Right. Nah, you good, man. You good, man. I appreciate it.
Really do appreciate it. I do. And I appreciate your honesty. I mean, like you said, you got, you know, some little years, not many years, you know, but some years on us. You know, but I appreciate you being able to, you know, to come in and have a perspective that was different from everyone else's and say it, you know, even when you preface it as, yeah, I'm not gonna like this one. I can't remember exactly what you said.
It's gonna be different. Yeah,
it's gonna be different. You know, you went ahead and you know, and you told us. Like I said, we all come with different experiences, different things, you know, that we've been through that brought us to the point where we are in our, you know, 30s, because everybody's in their 30s. You know, this decade of life. Like I said, I appreciate it. 100%.
Well, just to wrap it back around to what we started with, yeah, you should feel the right to be who you are and be who you choose to be without worry about being judged from you guys or from the church or from me or from my father. As long as you can be respectful and open-minded, then that's what we're here to do. We're here to work with each other to make all of our lives better. Isn't that what the whole deal is?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I thought when you were speaking. I said he is speaking it directly to Rudy's purpose of at least episode 1 of this podcast. 100%.
For sure. 100%. 100%. I love it. Cool, man. Well, as we wrap things up, I guess I'll give everybody a chance to just, you know, plug some if you got it, whether you want to do Instagrams, websites, whatever. If you don't want to say anything, you don't want to be followed, that's fine as well. So we will start with Kellie Lee.
Anything all right. So I have an Instagram. It's at PrincessKels51. It is what is it? Locked, closed, blocked. What's the word? I don't know the word.
Deactivated?
No, when people can't just log on.
Oh, it's
private.
Private.
Yes.
Right.
It is private. You can most definitely try. And you know, and you'll see what happens.
I have to accept you as a follower.
Right. Nope, and we'll see what happens.
After I vet your profile, that'll determine.
Right. Please make sure your profile is open so that I can see.
Right. If you're private as well, you're definitely blocked. That's right. Definitely right. No, I got you. Got you. Dope. Janessa.
Yep, I'm on Instagram. I recently changed my name, so I had to look it up. But it's J Rihanna 2_ RIANA for Rihanna. And yeah, you can follow me. I will probably add you as my friend.
I don't think she's adding me, but that's all right.
I already added you.
I'm teasing you.
Go ahead, Terry.
You can find me just about on any social media platform. Just Terry Wayne Comedy is my @ and reach out to youngadventurers.org. There's some great programs that they're still doing. They still sponsor a school in Africa, and they're still working on new projects for the future. You know, it's a great organization, and donate if you can, or at least sign up for the newsletter and just keep track of what they're doing.
RudyComedy.com for me, man. I pay for that website, so I always promote it. All my Instagram and YouTube stuff is linked there. This particular video will be on the No Life Boys Productions YouTube page. That's NOLIFEBOYZZZ Productions. That's pretty much it for me, man. I appreciate all of y'all. You guys were wonderful. I think this is going to be great, getting some interesting topics. And I actually had a lot more to talk about today, and I'm glad we didn't get to it because then that just, gives us more to talk about later. So I thought of some new stuff based off of things that were said today, and then I even just had questions that I already had. So I have plenty to chat about as long as you guys, I have faith in you guys. Keep showing up. So, hopefully, me and Terry don't run you two away and it just be me and him arguing back and forth.
Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants that.
Then eventually, a year from now, it just turns racial and then it just gets bad. So, I really appreciate y'all, man. This is a great first episode. The Worst Ones podcast, man. We are all PKs. We aren't the worst if you look at our friends, but we up there. Nonetheless, we'll be back every single week. Appreciate you guys watching. Peace. We out.